Well, it says I'm on, but I don't see myself. Why, hi there, I'm Ron Chuckett, and welcome to this DoDCast postgame show for the 27th day of July. Oh, I do see myself now. 27th day of July, where the Washington Nationals set more franchise records than you can shake a stick at today, and their 15-2 win over the Milwaukee Brewers. Since Bryce Harper was thrown out last night, and I missed the game last night because it wasn't my night, they've scored 22 runs. Today it was 5 home runs in one inning. They had 4 back to back to back to back. I just made this a no-doubter right from the get-go. Max Scherzer gets the win. We'll go through his totals in a moment. But he now has 6 straight years of 200 strikeouts, and he did it in his 21st start. Pretty good, eh? All right, let's go through the totals. Milwaukee, 2 runs, 4 hits, and an error. They slide to 54-50 and fall a game and a half behind the Cubs, who play the White Sox tonight. And the Nats go to 61-39. Not a bad first 100 games, eh? 15 runs on 19 hits and no errors. So Scherzer goes to 12-5. I forgot to switch that screen. And the poor kid Blazek, his first ever MLB start, and he looked good the first. Well, he gave up a home run early, but he looked decent in the second inning. And at one point, he'd struck out 4 straight, and then the wheels just fell right off. I believe every starter reached. I get that up for you. They were 5 for 13 in runners in scoring position and stranded 9. Extra base hits today. Are you ready? This is going to read like a school closing list. Goodwin had 2. He has 16 on the year, 1 off of Blazek, 1 off of Torres. Lobaton with his 3rd. Harper with his 26th. And Rendon with his 24th. Home runs. You ready? Gloucester Foster, 2-hour delay. No. Harper with 2 is a 2-run shot in the first off of Blazek and a solo shot in the 3rd. Goodwin with his 10th of the year. Hard to believe. A 2-out shot in the 3rd. It landed pretty much next to the same seat that Harper had his. Defoe with his 3rd of the year. A solo shot in the 3rd. Zimmerman with 2. A solo shot in the 3rd off of Blazek and a 2-run shot off of Peralta in the 4th. Rendon, his 21st of the year off of Blazek. A solo shot in the 3rd. And Lobaton just absolutely nuked one in the 4th off of Peralta. The Nats ended up, well, as I said, 15 runs on 19 hits. So Harper now has 79 RBI in 100 games. Zimmerman now has 72. You know, didn't get an RBI today was Murph. He's still hitting 340, though. I guess we'll forgive that. And hopefully someone can feed that poor starving pigeon on the field because he didn't. He sat there and ate all day. Judo Joker says, well, I got to tune into part of that. Oh, my goodness. Hi, Al. How are you? I believe that is 7. Judo says it's one thing to do it against the dysfunctional Mets team. This was against legit contenders. They're a young team, Judo. They look good at times. I think Milwaukee are about to have some very good days to come. But they're inexperienced, and that inexperience came up today. Poor kid making his first major league start and just was Christmas treat early. Judo says, I was really hoping that Max would get his first big league homer. He had a single and walk twice. I'm not sure that they ever retired him, did they? Just overall, a tremendous effort. And again and again and again on Twitter, they're saying talking about this 8 homers. Talking about this offense, and they're doing it without Jason Worth, Trey Turner, Michael A. Taylor, and Adam Eaton. And so out of that, you are missing, well, they all wouldn't start in the same game unless Harper was off, but you're talking about missing 3 everyday starters. You had Matt Wieters on the bench today, so essentially you are playing with 4 everyday starters, and they put up 15 runs. It is the 18th time this year that the Nationals have scored in double digits, and the 9th time they've broken 15. That is just absolutely stunning numbers. And that's why their first 100 games, they went 61-39. All right, pitching line, Scherzer on his 33rd birthday gets the win. He's now 12-5 on the year. As I said, 6 innings, 3 hits, a run it was earned, the home run. He walked 3 and struck out 9. His ERA is at 2.23. In 109 pitches, he threw 70 strikes. And if you're wondering why that didn't seem like a great outing, remember, especially between the 4th and the 5th innings, he sat a long time. That arm will tighten up when you are sitting that long. A hot day, he just really couldn't get into much of a rhythm. And look, he did the job, and it was effective. And the Nats lead is now 13 games. Andy Romero gave up a solo shot, worked around that. 1 inning, a hit, a run, it was earned. 16 pitches for 11 strikes. He does throw strikes. He's a lot more consistent in that strike zone than he was. Matt Grace with a clean inning, and then Matt Albers with a 6-pitch 9th inning. That was so fast, I almost forgot to write down on Twitter that he was there. So all in all, the Nats have taken 2 out of 3 on the homestand so far, with the Colorado Rockies coming in for what could be a rain-to-fund series, as there's supposed to be a lot of rain between now and Saturday in the D.C. area. So all in all, just a very, very good day. Nothing else in the division in progress. The Mets and the Padres wrap up their series tonight at 9:10. As far as the National League Central is concerned, we mentioned the Cubs and the White Sox tonight at 8. Arizona and St. Louis are tonight at 7:15, and that really is it. That's the only games. It's only 3 games in baseball with playoff implications today. Well, Cleveland beat the Angels 2-1, so the Indians have won 7 straight. But there's very little actual baseball today, and very, very little of that actually involves anything meaningful towards October. Yeah, Judo and Al, Red Sox fan, are chatting back and forth, and Judo says, I'll be rewatching this on Masson tonight. Just a lot of T-ball pitches, Judo. I mean, Blasick, the kid that was pitching for Milwaukee, as I said, it was his first start and looked good, but when he fell off that cliff, I mean, it was a Wile E. Coyote type cliff dive, and he just, couldn't get that umbrella open fast enough to parachute his fall. They were being hammered. Yes, Al, of course you can ask a David Price question. So that's after that was over, and Herman Perez ended up being a position player who pitched the 8th inning. And no, Judo, I saw your question. They're not going to trade for him to pitch. And Judo, was that you that came up with the Twitter account for the pitching? If you weren't watching the game, if you're watching this later, there was a pigeon who sat there behind home plate, around the home plate area for the entire game, and sat there and ate grass seed for 3 hours, just seemingly completely oblivious to what was going on around him. It was so funny. It really was just so funny. And someone, I said, well, I'm surprised we haven't been followed by an account yet. And some observant reader actually created an account and tried to talk to me. That was pretty funny. Let's see. Nothing in Twitter. As far as team news is concerned, Steven Strasburg was put on the disabled list. The hope is that he still will only miss 1 start. But you never know. Ken Rosenthal had some bad information yesterday about the Nationals being in the talks for Sonny Gray and Yu Darvish. It doesn't mean that won't happen over the weekend if Strasburg's next bullpen session does not go well. But the Marlins pretty much have told everybody that starter Dan Straley is available, and AJ Ramos, of course, is available. So the Nats could finally maybe find someone a little more bang for their buck. We'll keep an eye on that as the weekend goes along. And Sammy Solis was called up. He did not pitch today. And I imagine that he will probably be sent down for when they have to call up Fetty for Saturday. I'll get to your question in a sec, Al. I'm being pointed elsewhere. The joys of live internet talking. Nothing in the minors is going on right now. We'll go through the pitching lineups for you in a second. Okay, so Drew passed this along from his way out of the stadium. This was a tweet from Mark Zuckerman. Nats now have a .650 winning percentage, 13-7 in 20 games versus the National League's other top 5 teams. The Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, who they're done with for the year, the Rockies, who come into town for 3 starting tomorrow, the Cubs, and the Brewers. It's amazing how few teams in the National League have winning records. And he's right. I mean, you play the best and you beat the best. It's exactly what you're supposed to do. And they've done it with an offense that can pretty much score like a mid-'80s Oklahoma team against North Texas in college football, and a bullpen that's shakier than a bowl of Jell-O in California. That's a bad pun. All right, before we get to that, Al's asking, we're going to talk about the Red Sox for just a quick sec. Guys, Al's asking what are my thoughts about the kerfuffle between David Price and Dennis Eckersley. Price, I don't like David Price. I thought that was a bad deal from the start. I really don't find that this Red Sox team is likable in any way, shape, or form. I live in New England, been a Red Sox fan all of my life, but obviously they don't play always at the same time as the Nationals, but I've really, Al, felt no desire to turn over and watch. I've watched Sale pitch a couple times, but they're just unlikable. And I don't think they're being led very well. They're not going to fire John Farrell while the team's in first place or in contention for a playoff spot, but I've never been a big fan of him. Hopefully that's as much as I want to go into that on a Nationals thing. Okay, so that's my take on that. It's just unfortunate. And Kimbrel. Judo says I like Sale and Kimbrel. I interviewed Craig Kimbrel when I was with Bleacher Report for not this most recent World Baseball Classic, but the one before, and he just strikes me as a smart guy, very, very polished. All right, back to this game now. Judo says Herman Perez did pretty well for his first pitching appearance. He had a nasty 64-mile-an-hour something ball. His fastball hit 81, and all things considered, he was better than Plawecki when Plawecki was charged with trying to take one for the team. That doesn't say much. You're welcome, Al. No problem about that. For the Brewers, it's tough because they have 3 against the Cubs in Milwaukee starting tomorrow night. This was a big game for them. And the way that they looked when they shut out the Nats the last time I was with you on Tuesday, you went, oh, boy, you know what? They get some momentum. It could go really well against the Cubs. They could actually get potentially some separation with them as they battle for the Central, because the wild card game will be in the West. None of the Eastern teams are going to do it. Washington really isn't going to collapse. And the whole ball game is in the National League Central. I mean, there's four teams, I think, with a shot of winning the division, but there's only one playoff spot as long as Arizona and Colorado don't fall too much further back. But the last 2 games, go back to this. When Bryce Harper got tossed last night, and I still haven't seen the play because I'm a bad employee and didn't watch last night, it really seemed to change things around. They got 7 in the 8th to come back to win that game, and then they had 15 on the board by the 4th inning today. And all of that is that they get fired up. Bryce Harper, people say he is divisive. I don't think he's a divisive player at all. He's a very good teammate. He seems to be very concerned. He wants to win. How that is divisive is beyond me. And if he's getting the leadership skills of going, okay, if I have to carry this team on my back, if I'm the one that has to go out there and light the emotional firecracker to get this team going and then back it up with 2 home runs and a double in his first 3 at-bats today, then that's what he's going to do. And remember, he's only 24. We talk about Harper like he's a grizzled veteran. He's only 24. And putting up numbers that really put him on the verge of being the best player in baseball. So in any event, that's just good stuff. All right, let's take a look at what's going on tonight in the minor leagues. There are no active games today. And Judo says, before I go to that, whether he leaves or stays, he's not making it a public issue. He's very, very professional of him. I think if he does leave Judo, which, right in that 50-50 range, it's a business. And I think it's going to be a business decision for him. I think if the Nationals show some postseason success this year, I think it makes it more likely he will stay. I'm not convinced he's leaving. I'm not convinced that he's staying yet. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I don't think him leaving is a slam dunk. He'll get the money from wherever. If this is about being the first $40 million a year player, I think the Nationals pony up for that. But I think as this goes further and as he continues to build, and with the All-Star game there next year, it's going to be very hard for Bryce Harper not to leave Washington. Or very hard to leave Washington there. English is my first language. I just think that he's developing that type of relationship. They have that right now with Ryan Zimmerman, and they certainly have it with Max Scherzer. And I think Harper very much is embracing the role as best player on the team. Judo says, Max said joining the Nats was more about the winning than the money. And I think if they can prove to Harper that if he stays, that they're going to be a contending team for a while, I think that will sway him. He can be, Ryan Zimmerman today, not to change the subject too much, tied Frank Howard for the most homers in Washington's Major League Baseball history. If Harper stays, he'll shatter Zim's record, whatever Zim sets that mark to be. He can be right up there with Walter Johnson as the best players ever to wear a Washington uniform. And I think at the end, if he's comfortable with the relationship, that's a deciding factor. If he goes to New York, he's going to be in the shadow of every great who played in a Yankee uniform, and who they have, and Aaron Judge, who's having a tremendous year. Now, you're supposing that Judge continues that pace. If you go to Los Angeles, which is, I think, his other likely destination, you're in the shadow of not only Clayton Kershaw, but Koufax and Mike Trout. And so, I think depending on what he wants to do, he has an ability here to do something in Washington that no player has ever done before. As good as Ryan Zimmerman is, and as important as Zimmerman has been for this franchise, and will be the rest of his career, regardless of where he plays. This is Harper. If Harper wants this to be his franchise, he can do it and be productive for a long, long time. All right. Syracuse and Louisville play tonight at 6:35. Long goes for Syracuse. He's 2-4 on the year with a 4.61 ERA. Harrisburg will host Portland at 7 o'clock. Voth, and he's not pitched well at Harrisburg either. 1-1 with a 6.23 ERA. Potomac hosts Myrtle Beach in Advanced A ball. Gillebo, 2-2 with a 4.21 ERA. Hagerstown starter is to be determined as they host West Virginia at 7:05, and Auburn starter is to be determined as they host West Virginia at 7:05. Mackenzie Mills, by the way, got a promotion. There was one final today on the Gulf Coast. The Nats beat the Mets 1-0. A 3-hitter by the Mets, but the Nats got their run in the 9th inning. Jimenez with the win. He goes to 3-0. Francisco Liriano, by the way, goes from Pittsburgh to Kansas City, and I don't. Maybe Ricky can tell me real quick who that was. Louis Garcia is the one that scored the run There was no, for one minor leaguer, Ricky says. Jackson Kramer had a double, but there was no RBI. So that's the only final in the Nats system so far. So everything else is tonight. We already talked about the situation. All right. So I'm expecting to be with you tomorrow night after the opening game of the Nats Rocky series. But that's not his real name, Ricky. Ricky is trying to pull a Bart Simpson on me right now. Wants me to say something I'm not supposed to say. So depending on what the weather is in DC tomorrow, I will be with you after the game. Ricky will be with you Saturday for Eric Fetty's debut, Major League debut, and he will have a friend over from the Colorado Rockies fan-sided blog. So they will be with you Saturday, and I'll be with you Sunday. But that's all weather pending on what happens with the rest of that series. Because from what I saw from Capital Weather Gang today, it's supposed to be three innings of rain, 3 inches of rain, and flood watches out for the Delmarva area starting tomorrow. So we'll see what happens with that. What did we run today? I did a piece on what the Nats may or may not do, depending on what Steven Strasburg's health is. And Ricky took a closer look at Lance Lynn. Tomorrow we'll have 5 storylines to watch for the Rocky series and a bevy of other interesting topics for you at districtondeck.com. So we will see about that. Okay, so give this video a like and subscribe here on YouTube. Get your hand off your chin and look in the camera like you're a big boy, Ron. Give us a follow on Facebook. We post everything on there. And of course, give us a like on Twitter. Love chatting with you folks during the course of games, having some good fun on these blowout games. And hopefully the pigeon that took up so much of the afternoon finally is full. All right, that'll do it. I'm Ron Juckett. Have yourself a very good rest of your Thursday. I'll talk to you tomorrow, weather permitting.